On the Gamebridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome to This Week in Ball State Sports, a Ball State athletics podcast, highlighting the Cardinals athletic teams and administration each week, presented by Gamebridge. Here's the voice of the Cardinals, your host, Mick Tidrow.
Hey, Cardinals fans, welcome into episode 27 of This Week in Ball State Sports, and we have four guests for you this week. Director of Athletics Jeff Mitchell sits down with us first. Also have Dr. Lindsey Blom within the department chat with us about her role and how she is able to help advance Ball State athletics and the entire university as a whole. Also joining us is Brady, Sallee, Ball State women's basketball head coach, for an excellent conversation before the women's team heads to Cleveland. We also have a sponsor from the Career Center joining us as well here on the podcast. So, Jeff, appreciate you joining us here on episode 27, midway through March.
Well, thank you, Mick. Always a pleasure to be here. I am joined today by my dog, Champ, and Champ may make an appearance on the podcast, but we'll see if he chimes in.
Well, what kind of dog is Champ? We have to let the audience know. The people need to know.
Champ is a Cavalier King Charles Bichon Frise mix. And
how old is Champ?
Champ is just over 2 years old.
Okay.
And he's a great dog, but we named him Champion, and he goes by Champ for short. So brings a lot of joy to the Mitchell household.
Now, Jeff, is that the only dog y'all have?
It is.
Okay. Champ's the one and only.
Yes.
No plans of a second. Champ's going to be an only dog?
Only dog. he is going to be an only dog. And he's looking to, it's the time of the day where we play fetch, and I can't say that too loud because he will go bananas. But looking forward to that time with him momentarily.
Jeff, you say champion. Janelle Rogers has epitomized that throughout her Ball State career. All-American again for the second straight season as a track and field athlete, this time on the indoor side. Finished second in the nation in the pentathlon. What a couple of week stretch for Janelle Rogers.
Well, she deserves it. And she is such a fierce competitor and such a talented student athlete, and exemplifies what it means to be a Ball State student athlete in every way, not only from her championship caliber performance on the track, but also, she's an exceptional student in the classroom. So we celebrate her, especially on the heels of a second place finish in the pentathlon. And she was dominant. There's so little room for error when you get to the national stage, and she competed brilliantly and came up just a little bit short, came down to the 800-meter sprint, and she was a couple of seconds off the pace of where she needed to be, and fell into second place. She was leading after four events. So we are so proud of her, and commend Adrian Wheatley and his staff for the mentorship and the coaching that they've done to put Janelle in this situation to be successful and to be a national caliber athlete. And at the same time, we commend Janelle for her work ethic and the ability for her to compete on the stage and really, it's an improvement. The event is different from an indoor standpoint in the pentathlon, and the outdoor event that she participated in last spring. She was a fifth place finisher, which was good for All-American status in the heptathlon. So she's just a phenomenal athlete, and she can do all those different events and do it at a high level. So we look forward to what the outdoor season has for her.
Joey Garber can also do just about everything in the swimming pool on the men's swim and dive squad. Jeff, he has now become the first swimmer to sweep the breaststroke events at the MAC Championship since 2014. He has taken home now 4 straight 100 breaststroke titles. What can't Joey do in the pool?
Yeah, with Joey, another great example of what we're trying to develop here within Ball State athletics for our student athletes. And he was dominant, not only in the championships this year, but he's been doing it for 4 years running, so what an impressive athlete. We're so proud of Joey too, and all that he's accomplished. And Jay Agnew, again, can't say enough about him as our head coach and what he's accomplishing, not only on the men's side, but on the women's side as well, with our swim and dive teams. And so just a terrific moment for that program and for Joey as an individual, and we applaud him, and hopefully that his experience here will be very meaningful as he reflects on his time.
Jeff, Ball State softball on the road for quite some time over spring break, 7-4 record, and there was a key win within those 7 wins that helped show what MACtion can be on the national stage.
Well, what I'm learning, Mick, is anytime you have a chance to play and beat Notre Dame as a Ball State Cardinal, you're going to take it. And so we were able to celebrate a huge win by softball over Notre Dame as a part of their 11-game road trip that happened to coincide over spring break. Our softball team was 7-4 in that stretch, and none bigger than that run rule victory over Notre Dame over the weekend.
Yeah, I can't forget the run rule part of that, because they absolutely dominated 12-3.
That's right. Yeah, you got to throw that in there and celebrate that. But can't say enough about that team. I think I've mentioned before that softball team was impressive to me a year ago as I arrived. And we went through a coaching change when our former coach departed for another opportunity, and that opened up the door for Helen Pena to step in as our head coach. And I've been so impressed with the team and how they performed. They played a competitive schedule in the non-conference segment and are right at 500, 13-13 overall, and all on the road. Right? I mean, we don't play our first home game until this weekend as we open up conference play, and so to do all of that on the road is taxing enough, but for them to be in a position for us to get into league play and start gaining some ground, I think will be really special. And I'm excited for that program as they continue to develop and grow it. And those young ladies are playing really well right now. And really, the pitching has been there, and the defense, the offense struggled early, but as of late, they've been hitting the cover off the ball. And Michaela Timmons, I think, is in the top 3 in the country in home runs, which is awesome.
Yeah, Michaela's been swinging a really good bat for that softball squad, helping lead them to a 13-13 record. You mentioned it, the 7-4 mark over that spring break trip. Jeff, it's kind of crazy that the fourth storyline we're talking about here is a program record for women's basketball. 27 wins, only 4 losses in the regular season. That is a testament to how good the programs have been the last couple of weeks, and also to how good Ball State women's basketball has been as well. They finished up the regular season on a great stretch this past week, took 2 big road wins against Kent State and Buffalo. I will have head coach Brady Sallee break those down coming up here in a few minutes on the podcast. But that's a great way to end the regular season with some of that momentum going to Cleveland.
Yeah, I think, the team continues to play well, and, it's a long season. And so to play as consistently as they have over the course of the year is a testament to the young ladies on that team, to our coaching staff, and the belief that they have in one another that they're going to win ball games. And despite, a couple of losses here and there, they are a resilient group, and I think they've been playing really well, and was really encouraged to see how well they played on the road to end the season, which is not a simple task, especially as you're fighting for seeding in the conference tournament. But they played a close game at Kent State and played really well, and then followed that up with just a dominating performance on the road at Buffalo. And I think the team is ready. As we record this, I talked to Coach Sallee just a little bit before, and that's what he said too, is that they're ready, and it's a veteran group. So I'm excited to watch them play and compete, and I know they're excited to compete as well. So we'll be in Cleveland later this week and be cheering on the Cardinals.
It's your second go round at Cleveland because your first one was a couple days into the job.
Well, it was actually before I formally started, with boots on the ground on the job.
That's true. That's a good point.
Came up for the tournament, and of course, I'd already been named director of athletics, and was kind of living a double life.
So this is your first official one where you're all in.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So awesome. Really looking forward to it. But it will be neat to go back to a familiar place, to see the conference tournament from a new but familiar angle. And I look forward to it. Conference championships are really special. And, I think that our fans will be there to support our women, and we look forward to watching them play. And again, just happy for the team and excited for them as they continue their season.
Jeff, a couple of big men's volleyball matches coming up. One at Ohio State on Thursday, then at home against Lindenwood Saturday. Chance for them to get back into the swing of things. Had a few days off, went to Puerto Rico, had some training, cultural events, community service. So chance for them now to jump back into action.
Yeah, they're looking forward to it. I think when they left for their mini break down to train and do some community service in Puerto Rico, that I think they were really excited to do that, but also really excited to get back and continue their season. So that starts this week. I think they're ready. They're playing really well right now, and they all matter right at this point as we go down the back half of the season. So looking forward to seeing them play against a really good opponent in Ohio State, and certainly a tough opponent at Lindenwood as well. So it's that time of the year where the stakes are a little bit higher. So excited to see them play, and I think they'll rise to that challenge in doing so. I think it's a team that's built for that.
A couple of big wins for men's tennis against UIC, women's tennis 4-3 win against Bradley, both of those taking place on Sunday to help wrap up the weekend.
Yeah, those teams still trying to find their way, respectively, and always good to get a win. So happy for those two teams as they continue to play, and got some conference matchups, coming up that will be critical to a seeding opportunity for them and their conference tournaments coming up later in the spring. But excited to continue to follow them and how they play.
Gymnastics season's almost over too. There's one home meet left on March 17th before the MAC championships on the following week, March 23rd. That season feels like it just started, but it's coming to a close in the regular season already.
Yeah, it goes by fast. It seems like all the seasons go by very quickly. But gymnastics had a great win over the weekend at Northern, and are poised, to make a run here at the end of the season. We are excited about the final home meet of the season coming up in I guess it's next week. And then we host the MAC championships. And that is a date, I think, that's been circled on a lot of people's calendars because it's just a lot of energy in the building, and it'll be fun for us to host that on our own turf. And Coach Joanna Sallee and her team has performed at a high level. So they're worth coming out to watch, particularly in the conference championship.
Well, Jeff, before we let you go here in episode 27, is there anything else you want Ball State fans to know circling around athletics or in your world?
Well, this is a very busy time for intercollegiate athletics. It's a busy time for our coaches, a busy time for our student athletes. We're on the back half now of the semester in the spring. And so our student athletes are working diligently to, if they've haven't already taken midterms, they're preparing to do so. And then we'll get ready for finals. And at the same time, we've got all of our teams in some form or fashion, either training and or competing. So that's not always the case in the fall, but in the spring, there's a a period of time where everybody's doing something. And, with swimming and diving just finishing their championships, that they're going to taper off a little bit. But leading up to it, everybody, every team was engaged in some type of training and or competition. So there's just a lot of moving pieces to it. Our staff is active and busy supporting our coaches and our student athletes. And it's a great time of the year, too, because the weather's shifting a little bit. It was a little warmer today, Mick. I'm excited about that. Beautiful. It was a little chilly over the weekend to watch college baseball, but spring's coming. I can feel it. And, our teams are heating up as well. So that's a good way to go into a spring. We've got some successful teams that compete in this time of the year. So at the same time, we are preparing for next year and bring our attention to the fall, and football season tickets can be renewed, and we talked about the schedule a week ago, so getting ready for all of that, it's fun. So we appreciate the support of our fan base and appreciate just the remarkable numbers that have come to watch us play throughout the course of the season. And we have a great opportunity, not only from an indoor sport standpoint with volleyball and gymnastics here in the next couple of weeks, but also a lot of home events on the softball and baseball side. And hopefully tennis will get outside in some upcoming matches as well. So if you got a chance to come watch us play, please do. We'd love to have you. And our student athletes thrive off of our fans showing up and cheering on the Cardinals. It's an easy thing to do.
Well, Jeff, we appreciate you always. I think Champ was running back into the room. He's begging to play fetch, so I think it's time.
We're going to go have a dynamic game of it's probably a competitive game of fetch too. So we look forward to that. But in the meantime, go Cards.
Appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. Gainbridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at Gainbridge.io.
Back inside This Week in Ball State Sports, Cardinals fans, we're with head coach Brady Sallee of Ball State women's basketball. Hey, this team's going to Cleveland. This has been an exciting women's basketball season. Coach, appreciate you joining us here.
Yeah, it's a fun time of the year. March basketball is always the best, and we're certainly excited to get up to Cleveland and see if we got 3 games under our belt.
So you mentioned it. Get to Cleveland. Regular season's now in the books. 27-4 record. 27 wins has never been done in this program's history. How does that sound?
Honestly, right now, I don't think it makes a noise. I think we're so deep into what we're trying to do and knowing that our goals are in front of us. And, I think that's really where our focus is. There'll be a time where, we wrap this whole thing up and we look back and we can appreciate it. But I think right now it's nothing more than just a level of confidence. When you're a 27-win team, you're a confident team. You know how to win. You've been there. You've done it. You've won a lot of different ways. And so I think it's more or less just a feeling of we know we're good and now let's go finish this bad boy.
Everybody always talks about playing your best basketball going into Cleveland. And this team finished up very strong with a couple of wins at the end of the regular season. How does that speak to the volume of readiness for the squad going to Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly beats alternative, where you're having to now play mind games to get them right. I think the good news with this week, I think a few things here. We knew the opponents, right? We knew third and fourth place in the league, and Kent's been a little bit of a house of horrors for us in my time, and not in, they're good and present some matchup issues, and then just the travel itself to Kent to Buffalo, two of the further opponents in league, on the road before you're getting ready to go to Cleveland, all that stuff. Buffalo leading scorer in the league. I mean, there was a lot of adversity in our path, but I thought, our kids really showed what we've talked about all year at Kent, the will to win. It was not an easy game. It was an extremely fast game, and that's weird for us to say because we get up and down, but Kent maybe does it just a little bit faster. And so it was an intense game and hard fought and a big win on national TV. And then you've got to be able to, get over that, get yourself to Buffalo. And we've had a lot of success playing at Buffalo through the years. But, Chella Watson that, torched us when she was here in that first quarter. And so we had a whole different game plan. And so, when you look at it holistically, to play as well as we did, in the environments we played in with everything on the line, that kind of thing. And, we went into that game understanding what we had to do to have a chance to win a championship. And we took care of that part of it, and the rest we needed a little bit of help on. But so I thought the approach was great. The results were great. That bodes well heading up north to Cleveland.
Coach, you had a third player score 1,000 career points this season, Annie Roush joining Nyla Hampton and Allie Becky. How special was that for you to be a part of three of those this season, specifically Annie, who's put in so much time here at Ball State? Yeah, I mean, anytime a kid gets to that part of their career and they can accomplish something like that, it's kind of like 20 wins in basketball. It's probably like that 6-win mark in football. It's just that part where you feel like, okay, I've done something, we've done something. And that 1,000-point mark is something that gets you in record books, And so clearly I think nobody was shocked when Allie Becky did it. Nobody was shocked when Nyla Hampton did it. And I don't know that anybody was shocked when Annie did it, but Annie's never really just been that type of player. She's been the blue-collar, tough, hard-nosed, the kid willing to sacrifice, all the things that's right about college athletics. She is, and so when I first kind of started thinking, man, she's got to be pretty close here, and like I do a lot, I do just about everybody's job in this place. So I reached out to her SID, and I'm like, hey, you might want to be ready for this. I think she's only 40-some-odd points away. And I'm sure our SID was all over it. But nonetheless, I reached out to her. And so, you start thinking about, like that part of it. I knew she had already gotten 500 rebounds. You're like, this is a kid that's going to end up here with 1,000 points, 500 rebounds, and there can't be many of those. And it puts her in a small group. And that was the thing when she accomplished it on the home floor, which I love that she was able to do it in front of our people, and they loved on her so much. But that's what I hugged her, and I said, I want you to understand where you fall in this thing, and I think, that made it even more emotional. But you're awfully proud of all of them when they get to there. But Annie will always have a special place in this program for what she's put into it. And I don't know that she came into it ever thinking about, I want to be a 1,000-point scorer, a 500 rebound performer, but to be able to end her career with that is really, really cool. And it was on senior day, too.
Yeah, right? Stuff movies are made of. So the question is, who would play me in that movie? I'm thinking Matthew McConaughey.
I was thinking Woody Harrelson.
No, I'm probably a little bit more of a heartthrob type guy, I would think. I'm just saying.
Okay. Yeah.
And McConaughey and I, we had the same accent.
That's a very good point. I'll take that.
It would be an easy role for him, I think. He'd have to work on the stare. But outside of that, I think there's a lot of similarities there.
I'm with you on this. I think that McConaughey would be honored to play Brady Sallee in whatever film we come up with here.
And
Brady Bunch, right? That's what we're calling the movie.
And maybe in my next career, maybe, they do a docuseries on him and I play him. Maybe I could reciprocate. I like to think of myself as multifaceted.
You have been known to flash off the talent skills on camera this year, so I won't put that out of reach.
I mean, you've seen it. You know how easily it is to direct me and get me to, that high level acting like you saw. So nothing's off the table.
Out of everything that you do, being coachable is at your top, and I appreciate that.
That's what every referee says. That works with me. I'm very coachable.
I have a weird thought about that, but we'll keep it there, Coach. Alex Richard has been absolutely lighting the MAC on fire the last 6 or 7 games. She's always had that for Ball State, but why in this last 6 to 7 game stretch is she performing this well?
It's a heck of a question because I think in our circle, in our locker room, we look at her that way. And we know she's put up some numbers like that here and there. She's a kid that is very to the point with the way she thinks, and I really think she stepped back and got a little bit of confidence from some teammates and was like, well, yeah, why not? Let's go. And I think, when the ball drops a little bit and you get a little bit of confidence and it snowballs, good things like this can happen. And it's probably no different than a shooter that gets on a run, a hitter that gets, in one of those grooves or any of that kind of stuff. So I think she's just playing with a lot of confidence, and it's real confidence. It's not, nobody gave her a pep talk to give her confidence. That's fake, right? It's I went in, I earned it, I did it, and now I'm going to do it again. And now I understand. And so I think through this whole thing, she's kept it really simple. She hadn't tried to do anything that she's really not capable of doing. But she is playing extremely confident right now. And, man, what an absolute just the timing of it couldn't be better for us because, now we can put a team out there that can really shoot it. And we've got a couple players that we can really throw it down to low block. And I think all that, along with our ability to play defense, and the equation's right, and it's where we want to be.
Coach, we talked about it before the start of the season that you guys wanted to make sure that the post players inside were seeing a lot of action, inside-out kind of a team that really is starting to come into play, especially with Alex playing the way she is. You mentioned Annie, and then Marie doing what she does. That facet of the game is just continuing to elevate for you all. Yeah,
and I think it's as good as our guard play is and has been, and it's, the reason we're as good as we are. I think night in and night out, one of the real differences with us and a lot of other teams we play, especially in the league, is our bigs and our depth there. Marie Kiefer is a matchup nightmare. And now with the way Alex and Annie are playing, it puts a lot of pressure on teams, and so when you've got players like Allie and Nyla that can pass it as well as they do, and teams are having to help in the post, and now we can find shooters, and it really makes things flow well, and makes things easy for us that way. But it's a lot of fun with this group. It's a talented group. It's a group that's got a lot of belief in themselves, and I think you got to have all those things to get on a bus and think you can go win this thing up in Cleveland.
Well, Brady, we always appreciate you joining us here in This Week in Ball State Sports. Can't wait to watch you tear it up in Cleveland. Thank you.
All right.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. Gainbridge lets you invest on your terms, so you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at Gainbridge.io.
Welcome back into episode 27 of This Week in Ball State Sports. And we're joined today by the Career Center and Jim McAtee. Jim, we really appreciate you joining us this week to talk about Ball State, the Career Center, and your role.
Hey, Mick, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited about the work we do with athletics and Ball State in general, so I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Jim, first and foremost, what is your role with the Career Center?
Yeah, so my title is Assistant Vice President for Career and Professional Development at Ball State. So what that means is that I get to work with the entire Ball State team, our employer relations and recruitment team, our career and professional development team who works with our students, and our on-campus student employment team who helps employ about 5,000 students on campus. In addition to that, I serve as liaison to our foundation from our division, and I do a lot of work with our government relations folks trying to tell the good story, return on investment of higher education at the State House.
How have you seen the Career Center grow since your time there?
Well, I've been here 12 years, Mick. So a lot has changed in 12 years. We have really deployed a strategy of career infusion, which means that we've been collaborating at a high level across campus and across the community. So one of the things that has changed the most is kind of how we deliver our services. We work a lot in partnership with our faculty, with our alumni, and with others across campus to help students succeed.
What are some of the initiatives that you are doing right now to help students succeed?
Yeah, so a lot of those have to do with both developing the student while they're here at Ball State, getting them ready to have positive engagements with employers, but then also really focusing in on some new and interesting ways that we're trying to connect industry with higher ed. So a couple of those initiatives, the newest, the most shiny one is called the Indiana Connection Lounge and Experience. It's a new way to bring industry into campus. A lot of times large campuses can be a complicated place for external folks to try and navigate. And so what we've done is, we've broke the code on that. We figured that out. What we do is we'll bring industry in, we curate a full day of engagement with them because we're a centralized career center. We have connections all across the campus, all across the community, where we can bring an employer in and really create a robust day of engagement with them so that our students can really start to understand what opportunities are right in their back door. I'll give you an example. Numbers speak, right? So in the fall, it was our first full year doing this. We had a pilot year, but this past fall, we introduced 3,500 students directly to 49 employer representatives who are here on campus. Wow. Just one fall. So that's pretty amazing numbers. But when you dig into it and you realize that 2,700 of those 3,500 students never went to a large job fair, you start to realize we're reaching another population. Right. We're reaching another population that industry needs in order to fill their talent pipeline, but also students want to connect in some new and different ways. So that's probably one of the most innovative things that we're doing here in relation to connecting industry and higher ed.
So you're trying to help bridge the gap between the students, the jump, and the industry, just to make sure that everybody is well connected and well versed in what's going on.
Yeah, that's right. You hate to bring it up, but a lot's changed since COVID, right? And so what we're trying to do is figure out how best in this new era of recruiting and talent, and how do we connect students to the right places quickly. But also we want to make sure we're skilling students up so that they can be successful in those engagements. And so one of the other programs we run is called Skills Infusion. This is a nationally recognized program at Ball State where we actually bring industry and alumni together with our faculty, and we start to map the common competencies that employers need in graduates directly into the academic course outcomes. And we do that in the co-curricular work. And we're actually collaborating with athletics in that as well, because my goal, every student who graduates from Ball State ought to be able to talk about their competencies that they learn in concert with their academic content. I was a recruiter at one point in my career. I come from industry, and one of the most challenging things for me was when I had somebody across the table from me that I felt could do the job, but they just weren't communicating it to me. They didn't have the words, they didn't have the language. And so I don't want any one of our students to end up in that situation. That's not good for our students, and that's not good for our workforce. So we've got some really neat things happening here for our students and for our industry in the state.
And to make students aware of what's going on is a vital piece of this too, because there are so many students that may not understand.
Boy, you hit the nail on the head there. I'm a first generation college student myself, a non-traditional student. And I know that, I didn't know the opportunities right in my backyard. 78% of our students stay in Indiana post-graduation, contribute to our workforce. I'll give you an example. So there's an organization up north in Indiana called OrthoWorks. They're leaders in the orthopedic industry. But you know what? Students probably don't have a hip replacement yet. So why would they know about OrthoWorks, right?
It's a fair point.
But it's our responsibility to make sure they know that there is this global conglomerate that has everything, not just health related, but finance and marketing and communication and creative. There are all these opportunities, but why would our students know about it unless we introduce them to it? So that's what we're trying to do a great job of here, making sure that our students know about all the opportunities that are available to them so they can make really great choices about where they want to go.
Jim, you mentioned partnering with the athletics department and career center. Why is that important to you?
Wow, that has opened up a whole new realm for us, Mick. I'm so excited to be a part of this. I was at the men's basketball game just the other day, and we were able to bring some of our employer partners there, some alumni back that haven't been back to a ball game in a while. And because of our partnership, we're able to bring them there, and athletics allows us to develop deeper relationships with those folks, connect them back to Ball State in some new ways, and introduce them to some pretty high level students who are in, our student athletes and others. And so that partnership has really helped us connect in some new and different ways. I'm grateful for that.
The alumni engagement and relationship with the students has to be important to what you do.
Yeah, it's very important, especially with our mentor initiative in partnership with the Alumni Association and Foundation. We're helping to grow mentorship across campus, which is really critical. I don't know about you, Mick, but I wish I had a mentor like that when I was going through college, someone who I could just have real conversation with about, not only school, but life and the next steps and all of those things. And so bringing alumni back to work with students, mentor them, but also to help inform and maybe help reshape a little bit of our curriculum and kind of what we're teaching and how we do that. It's really great to have recent alums come back and inform that. And we've got a pretty robust program here to do that.
Jim, before we let you go here on the podcast, is there anything else you want people to know about your role, the Career Center, the partnership with the Career Center and the athletics department, anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, gosh, I guess the first thing that comes to mind that I always try to do is, this work doesn't happen in a vacuum. It takes a lot of partners. I appreciate the athletics partnership. I appreciate our faculty partnership, our alumni partnership, our industry partnership, government partnerships, community all of the things. But none of this work would get done if it weren't for the Career Center team. So any chance I get, I want to shout out kudos to Robert Tucker and the employee relations team and Brandon Butte and the career development team, Kendra Haggard, and all the work that they do in on-campus student employment. None of this work would get done if we didn't have awesome people like that on our team. So team, thanks. You do awesome work.
Well, Jim, we appreciate you joining us here on the podcast and appreciate all the work that you're doing to help students and industry connect and become better together.
All right, awesome, Mick. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. Gainbridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at Gainbridge.io.
Hey, Cardinals fans, welcome back inside episode 27 of This Week in Ball State Sports. And one of our guests here today is Dr. Lindsey Blom, an Associate Athletic Director for Championship Performances with the Ball State Athletics Department. Dr. Blom, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk with you.
Dr. Blom, I just kind of wanted to start there. What does your position mean to the athletics department?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it was really a vision that Jeff Mitchell had to take a lot of our support services that help our student athletes excel outside of their teamwork. So sports medicine, strength and conditioning, nutrition, and mental health and wellness, and put them under one administrator who could collaboratively and comprehensively see the vision of how those work together to help our student athletes excel. And so it's really this idea that all of those groups were working beautifully on their own, but under one administrator, we have more opportunity to comprehensively look at a student athlete's health care in those areas, especially if there's like an injury. But Ramadan's come up recently, so how do we collectively support our student athletes who are fasting for the next month? So those sorts of topics together. We've talked about sports science. So really kind of bringing the heads and the individuals in each of those groups to a table once a month and kind of figuring out what's next as a comprehensive collaborative group.
How long have you been in this position to bring this as a collaborative group?
That's a really good question. So I think officially it started in August at the academic year, but I was still moving over from the department chair role for School of Kinesiology. So I really came in about mid-October full-time here.
And how have you seen the transition take place?
It's been exciting. Jeff just gave us an opportunity to kind of look back on our last year or so to see what we've accomplished. And I think, it's always hard to come in. Those groups were working really well and have people who've been in those spots for a long time doing excellent stuff. So it's always interesting when you bring someone else in to kind of figure out how to build rapport, how to learn to trust each other, how to respect each other's lanes, but then figure out how, if we can actually work together, we can be even better. And so that's what slow and steady has kind of been the plan at this point, and I've gotten to see more of that work, and I think people are starting to realize what it's like when we can work together, so I'm excited about it.
How does your previous background help you with your current role?
Yeah, I think that's what made me really excited when I talked to Jeff about it. It's one of those moments where I was just like, oh, this is my next step. I hadn't really been thinking about coming over into athletics. I've been connected through the FAR role and through sports psychology, but I hadn't seen it like over here as an administrator. And when we started talking about this vision, there are similar areas to what's in kinesiology. So not only have I been part of that department for 15 years, but as a department chair for a year and a half, I was able to be more integrated into each of those areas. So our exercise physiology, our biomechanics, our athletic training. And so as I learned more about each of those disciplines, I realized how someone who was coming from that academic background and that leadership position actually could maybe just move the vision over here, and it would be very transferable. And certainly why those aren't my areas of expertise. The knowledge that I've been able to have over the past few years helped, I think, in kind of speaking the language in some of those spaces, and then also being able to see how maybe those pieces would fit together, which is what I really enjoy doing.
You mentioned all the different areas that your current position covers and helps oversee. How do you balance each one of those positions to give the proper time to them?
Well, the first answer is I don't. That's the honest answer. If you asked each one of those groups, they'd be like, well, I haven't seen her, or I saw her too much. So I think that I'm still figuring that out. There'll be some more time for that. There are ebb and flows, just like in the other areas of sport that we cover, what that looks like. And sometimes there's moments that there's a fire and we need to work on that piece. With the new facility coming up, there'll be more time kind of planning for the Championship Performance Center and what we need for work on strength and conditioning, speed and power, as Jeff likes to call it over there. So it kind of ebb and flows. And the other part of that is me trying to be present in their spaces so they don't have to kind of repeat what they're doing, but I can actually see it in action and talk with them. That's easier because those individuals are hands-on working with our student athletes, so they don't want to sit in lots of meetings. So it's easier for me to go to their space. So that's what I've been trying to do. Again, easier said than done at times, but trying to find out what works. Because I also oversee 3 sports, and I'm still teaching in our sports psychology graduate program. So still trying to figure all those pieces out.
What do you teach?
But right now I'm teaching our practicum class. So our graduate students last year did about 400 hours of mental skills work with our student athletes. Direct services, we've got 18 students over there doing work. So I do our practicum class, which is kind of the supervision and the preparation for their work over here. And then I teach sports sociology in the fall.
So all of your roles intertwine with one another.
I do. I love it. I mean, someone says, you have a lot of roles. And I'm like, yes, but they actually really do overlap. I do feel like I'm talking about the same sort of things all the time. It's just a matter of whether it's a student or a student athlete or a coach or an administrator. So I'm thankful that I just get to talk and do the things that I love all day long.
You mentioned the Sport Performance Center. It sounds like that's somewhere you're going to be living in as soon as that thing is done.
Yes, I can't wait. The other day I was driving down the road and I was just like looking over in that space and like picturing just how awesome it's going to be in 2 years from now. Really excited about the opportunity to be part of that development, to work with our staff to develop something that's really incredible. And we've seen some potential ideas of what it may look like, and I get super jazzed every time I think about it.
Dr. Blom, you mentioned the mental health piece of your role as well. How are you seeing that part of it grow?
Yeah, I feel like in the past few years, we've really heard our student athletes ask for more in those spaces. I was at the MAC conference when the student athletes, the COSA group, stood up in front of the athletic directors, the senior administrators and the FARs to say, we need you to do better. And so that was really powerful to hear the student athletes say that. And mental health has been something that's been a part of, my area and interest for a long time. But to hear the requests from the people we serve was really important. And so that inspired me to continue to advocate for more. As I mentioned, we do a lot of work around mental skills and mental performance, which helps with like life skills and coping and things of that nature. But we don't have a great setup in-house for the more serious mental health. So we certainly have a great relationship with our counseling center, which is awesome. But I look forward to the opportunity, hopefully sooner than later, to have someone in-house that can do some of that clinical work for our student athletes.
Dr. Blom, what's your story for those that don't know? You mentioned the 15 years spent across the hallways, but your story is what?
My story, good. That's really hard to think about. I think, it's a winding path that involves some opportunity to travel early for soccer. I played college soccer, to spend some time in the South, to meet some great friends and my significant other who played soccer with me down there, to have a long opportunity to grow as a student through many, many years of schooling, and then to be a faculty member in a place where just every day you get to just study and be better in your craft, and then to move over here. I think it's just been a culmination of the things that are really important to me, helping young people thrive, an opportunity to use science to drive the way we work, and the opportunity to continue to be better myself every day for people who are expecting more. And so I just really enjoy those pieces, and they're still all woven. I still get to play some soccer sometimes and get to coach a little soccer with my son and get a parent as a soccer mom too. So I enjoy having all those pieces be part of my life still.
How much does being a former student athlete help in your current role today working around athletics?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I really think that it does. I mean, I think about our administrative staff and how many have college playing experiences, and previous administrators too. And I do think, while it doesn't dictate that someone can do the job or not, I do think it adds some elements. It adds an element, especially as a female student athlete, of what that experience was like. And certainly it was different 20 years ago than it is today. But at the same time, there were similar components, and the stress feels different at different times in the balance there. So I do think that it allows me to connect. It probably grounds me at times when maybe I think more like an administrator than a student athlete. So it's kind of nice to go back to those pieces too. So I'm thankful for that piece fitting into what I do now.
This could be a very loaded question, but you mentioned the time that's passed from you as a student athlete to now in today's day and age as a student athletes. What have you seen change in the realm of what you work in right now?
Yeah, I think the science driving what we do is incredible. I remember my soccer coach, who was an amazing, very, very high-level soccer player himself, said, "I don't believe in strength and conditioning for women." And so we didn't go to the weight room very often. And so that's obviously very different than where we are now. We didn't talk about mental health. We didn't talk about sports psychology, nutrition, maybe a little bit. Sports medicine was there, but their credentials were different and the expectations were different there. So the science behind those areas has been incredible. And I think that's what excites me, is because I still know there's a lot more we're going to do in those areas. So not only in just the people power that we have, but actually the knowledge that we're gaining. We actually probably have more knowledge than we even know what to do with right now, so trying to sort through that. So I think that also energizes me to think about what we can continue to do in those spaces.
How much do you have to think about all of the information that you just mentioned? There's so much more than we can even comprehend on a day-to-day basis. How do you choose what to take in for maybe a day-to-day, or it can be an academic year? Like, how do you try to focus in on certain things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think there's a balance of a few things. We actually heard, I was at a keynote speaker, listened to a keynote speaker, Lululemon sports scientist, and she really talked to this idea of, we have so much data, but if we only use the data and we forget the human element in it, we're going to miss the boat. If we only focus on the human element and don't use the data, we're going to miss things. And so we have to find this integration. And she said that takes time, knowledge, and continued growth and development. And so that really kind of made me think through, again, slow and steady wins this race. If we just jump to the technology before we're ready, there could be challenges with that. That isn't always helpful, especially for our student athletes who are trying to navigate that. So I think I try to set some time each week to read a few articles about the different areas. I try to spend some time listening to podcasts too. Sleep is another big thing that we haven't talked about that's growing as far as what we need for our student athletes, all of us in that space. So I think trying to stay up on some of the readings, trying to allow others to go to their conferences and bring back information, and then just to remember that we're talking about humans when we get to the bottom of it all.
Dr. Blom, before we let you go, what are some things that you're working on today that you want to help this athletics department push forward with?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I was just thinking about this the other day when we were reflecting on the past year as I thought about the next year, is I really want all of our student athletes who come in, let's look at August in the fall, when we have our team meetings with them, to know who their championship performance team is. So for instance, for somebody who's on the soccer team, to know who their athletic trainer is, to know the nutritionist, dietitian, to know their strength and conditioning coach, and to know who's around to support their mental health and wellness, and to see them as a support team. I know they know who the individuals are, but I don't know that we've presented it as a team before to them, so they can really see that group. So really looking forward to helping the student athletes see that piece, and then challenging each of our areas to continue to grow and develop as a unit rather than just in their individual goals.
Well, Dr. Blom, we really appreciate the work that you're doing for Ball State University, Ball State Athletics as a whole, and thank you for joining the podcast this week.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to This Week in Ball State Sports, presented by Gamebridge. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Gamebridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network.